It's Friday, it's raining. I have no guilt. You know, although I do have to play some Raid, unfortunately, but that's not the kind of thing I feel guilty about, just anxious about. Like I said before, I'm in the middle of or I've started a big event, and it's one I want to complete. The last one, the power outage killed me on. So, I guess we start the month of December. Now, last month basically nothing happened. The Italians made some light attacks on Mersa Matrua, trying to see if there was any opening. There really wasn't. And in terms of attrition, it probably hurt them more than it hurt the Brits. Although, you know, it's such a weird situation because it's like, okay, what is the Italian goal here? Because historically they get wiped out and driven off the map. You know, is my goal to hold Tobruk? That would be great. That would be the best possible answer, other than taking Mersa Matrua and automatically winning the game. And then I just keep playing, right? And I don't feel like I was aiding in that holding Tobruk operation. I've actually shipped additional forces beyond what Mussolini requires into Egypt. Probably not wise. Probably I should lose the least I possibly can up here and defend Bardia Tobruk as much as possible and make them as expensive or whatever. But again, it's hard for me to play that kind of way. I feel like my territory now, gotta hold it, you know, and that kind of stupidity, which honestly I think makes for better play, but not, like, for a better game and a better story, but not really for, you know, the best play in terms of, like, competitiveness. Who cares? Weather, well, the only thing we had was a weather event. Brits got initiative, they forced the Italians to do it. The weather event is rainstorms. It is on the first two maps of the game. It's random, it's always two though. And wadis are impassable except where roads are crossing them. You can't attack, you can only attack at those points. Air units on the effective map become inactive. Now what I've been told is that in DAK 2 or something, at some later point, this has been changed. They're not inactive, they just can't fly. That's a big deal. That's a difference. And I don't actually, I'm not sure about it. Inactive, I thought inactive just means can't fly. But anyway, it wouldn't have affected the situation I had. The situation I had, somebody pointed out, that change in rules would have made an issue. Because I'm trying to remember, inactivity, is that the term for when air units flip over and you have to pay to activate them? Because if that's the case, that does fit what he was saying. I don't remember my term. Yeah, it is. Yeah, so an inactive air unit not only can't do anything, but costs you resources to bring back, which doesn't make sense in weather. I did not play it that way. Somebody thought I did. No, I had actually used the Allied airplanes. The turn before, which is why I couldn't afford to pass the turn, like to switch from being first player for the Commonwealth. And indeed, yeah, I'm not inactivating the aircraft. I never have due to the weather. I'm just playing it how apparently the rules changed anyway, which is the only way that makes any sense to me, which is, yeah, you can't fly there. You know, you can't take off. Inactivating would be horrible. Terrain costs for movement are double, and other than the above, attacks and barrages are handled normally. This is going to impact the Italian transfers by land that are kind of going on, but whatever. For the first time, the Italians have some real thoughts to conduct. I've got my full 2 shipping. I've marked it this way. I'll pay supply points if I want to bring things in. But I've got a lot of forces, some of which I may want to bring in. Now, the planes can just fly in. That's not a problem. But the other stuff, I believe the planes can just fly in. The other stuff, I know, I have to ship into Tripoli and then figure out where it's going. And what's of value? Well, in particular, there's this one really good machine gun. It's like a battalion there with a 4 quality. Wow, that's really good for the Italians. At this point, I think 3s are the best they have. That would be an incredibly useful thing to have. So I think I'm going to want to bring that in. I may also want to bring this regiment. Oh, I don't know if regiments have 2 steps or 1 in this. See, this is... I really hate this rule, where the size of the units is different from elsewhere. And I understand why they did it, but I don't understand why it's not marked on the counters. I can't fucking find it. I'm gonna have to hold off. I'm gonna turn the camera off so I can look. Much as soon as I start looking, I find it. As soon as I don't have the camera, it's only brigades. Okay. So that would be a 1-step unit. Now regimental equivalence is another issue, which is over here. I don't remember. Again, this is all stuff that would be really useful on the cheat sheet. I think it's just 1 regimental equivalent. Given that it's a regiment, that would make sense. Yeah, let's leave that be. Okay, which means that I might want to bring this in as well. But then I've got other things that I might want to bring in too, and I'm just not sure how much I want to do. In addition, I have to look around, see if there's anything Yeah, I'm going to have to find what kind of cost there is to transferring the air units, because they should be using their movement allowance to get there. This is the first time I've brought new air units in for the Italians. Lots of new rules coming up. Okay. Each of these little markers, each of these AEP boxes, which allow you to transit by flying overseas, if you want to avoid areas of the map. Has how far something is from another location. So Crete, Sicily is over here. But I come over here, well, Sicily I might want to use. Here we've got air distances to Tripoli as well as to Sicily. So I would be able to, and if you don't have an axial link, so if I wanted to come over here from Tripoli, I would have to fly to one of the Tripoli, one of the boxes that includes Tripoli, and then I could either go on map or go back onto the AEP system and count movement points that way. But in this case, these planes, I can move them in based on that. So we're coming out of Sicily, and we've got a complete supply dump from Sicily. These guys have 118, 41, and 49 movement points. Well, the 49 can make it to Benghazi. I don't know. I am assuming that the 41 can fly into Tripoli. I don't have any kind of indication that I see telling me how far the flight to Tripoli is. So I can fly double. That will inactivate, i.e. use up the fuel supplies and whatnot, so that I have to refit the plane. There's these guys. I'm really worried about what they're up to. These water guys, whether they're gonna do something with my wood. Like, I'm assuming they won't take it. But some of it looks like garbage, and is, which I don't care if they take, but if they take, like, the bigger pieces, I got an issue. Anyway. What was I at? See, here's the thing. I might actually have to ship something to Tripoli instead of flying it there. And that's what I'm not able to find. The movement allowance, you can double it if you want to fly across, but I'm not seeing anything. Of course, I didn't look too carefully here. But I'm not seeing anything that talks about flights from Sicily to Tripoli. I was hoping there would be something there. I can't find rules that allow me to shift from here to the Tripoli box anywhere in the rules themselves. Now, that leads me to the, hey, I can put them on board boats. Yeah, I can't find shipping rules for moving planes on boats here. And been looking at the reinforcements and whatnot. Let's see here. Air reinforcements. So, Commonwealth reinforcements must enter. The Axis must ship to Tripoli first. Once they require the first stop, they may then move for coastal shipping by land, but they cannot do this until the next game turn. Air reinforcements arrive normally at any air base or airstrip and do so inactive. Which leads me to believe that I don't actually have to fly them from Tripoli at all. Like, that I can just bring them onto the map anywhere I like. Okay. That is, I think, the defining role. I don't like that. I feel like I should have to base them from somewhere. I guess they could come by aircraft carrier in some cases. Like, it may be that the smaller planes could be deployed by aircraft carrier, and the Italians, I don't know if they had one. I know they have the option to build. They had plans for one. I'm assuming they had one. But yeah, it's really. Maybe the smaller planes could also find places where they could temporarily land. But again, that would fuck with, all these other intricate rules, right? If they have like places where they can land, where they can refuel and whatnot. So it feels to me like they should have to make their way on, but I don't have to actually ship them, which is good because I only have 2 SP of shipping, and that's being challenged here. You know, do I want to bring this armored unit? Yeah, I really don't. It's not that good. And these machine guns, they are good. But I need to keep my flow of supplies going as well. Like, you feel like it's more important for me to get supplies on the map than to shift a couple more units into play. Yeah, following that rule on the air reinforcements, I brought my fighters right in at Buck, which would have been a pain in the ass to get them there and would have cost me some fuel and stuff otherwise. I don't know. But it says they arrive normally, you know, I'm not going to pay too much attention to it. I just really feel like, I don't know, they should have to fly to the map, but the numbers don't work, right? And then, well, why do I have shipments to Tripoli, well, most importantly to Sicily and Crete on here? Well, here's why. Once they're on the board in Sicily or Crete, so one reason is I can use transport aircraft to move stuff from Sicily or Crete, which would be of some use, right? I could actually use transport aircraft to carry units forward. I don't think I have anything with a transport capability. I'm pretty sure the fighters won't have it. This guy doesn't. Oh, this guy's a transport plane. Well, what the hell? I don't know, he's got a T on him. I don't know if that's transport. Might be tactical bomber because just everything seems to have a T on it. And I don't, let me, looking up rules again, shit that I don't remember. First thing I'd expect is for planes to be here. This is in the current rules, so, you know. All right, I gotta find where transport plane capability is described. This would fuck me up. So yeah, tactical bombers are the T's. Transports are TPT, and they have another value on them that indicates what they can carry. And there's combo types, which I guess can have both T and TPT written on them. So yeah, I'm not going to be able to carry any load with these planes. I think I'm done with the Axis turn. I brought 2 units in to Tripoli. These others are just hanging out. I can cycle them in slowly, but one thing is this truck, I would kind of like to haul some goods with it, but so far I don't need to. I could haul a unit. I could essentially motorize like this quality machine gun unit here, but it could motorize itself. Of course, then I have to pay fuel for that. So, but that means I can't motorize it. You can't cheat and like make a unit a free fuel motorized unit by using trucks. I do feel that the trucks here, like the fact that they have infinite fuel is kind of weird. And then, like, I want to compare that to, I don't know what. I'm trying to remember if Desert Fox required that you keep your trucks in fuel. Because if it does, that would explain why the supply system in that one is sort of such a nightmare. It's so easy to fuck everything up. Like, this is a shortcut, this is a mercy type situation that makes life a lot easier on the players. Because if you had to fuel those trucks and keep some sort of supply line going to keep their fuel going, you'd have a lot more shipping around of supply points and whatnot. But the further the trucks are operating from you, the more you're kind of cheating the system. Like, if you're operating on kind of a main line where it can be assumed some of your trucking is present to to keep your trucking fueled, that all kind of works, right? You can just assume that there's a certain amount of truck traffic going through here to keep this one SP of trucks working. But if I start driving down over here, it becomes a lot less believable that that truck would still be in fuel situation. And whatever. Anyway, again, I think that is the axis turn. This is an expensive turn just because I had to look up a couple of things, and that's life, man. Okay. And then I get an artillery unit, which I don't really care too much about coming in for the Brits. Okay. Caught myself trying to cheat. I put my air unit here. I want it here anyway. There's a big bomber there. I don't know. I don't know why, but I didn't notice that. I haven't been using it. But moved another in. I can't combine these. They're different air units. Both damaged, not good. The fighters are fine. As long as I'm on this map or further, I can fly in. I'm really weirded out about, though, just being able to fly in. That just, like to any airbase, that feels wrong. I'm guessing that may be something that DAK 2 fixed. And, if they did, I may work something out. See, the real problem is Sicily's probably closest to Benghazi, closer than it is to Tripoli. So the idea of flying to Tripoli when I can't fly to Benghazi seems ludicrous, right? But packing the planes up in boats and shipping them would be a significant extra expense, and that may be one that this game can't handle, right? So I kind of don't want to do either, right? Like, the game is designed to fly them into any base, anywhere, as per the standard rules at that time. Okay. What was, yeah, you know, it's taking a lot more effort once you start hitting rules that, you know, you're not used to applying, and especially these chromy, you know, exclusive rules for DAK itself that come into play. And I know it's going to get a lot harder real soon, so I'm a little afraid of like playing more today, but I wanted to bake some in. I have not gotten to the Brits yet, and at the very least I need to do them. That gets me to the second week. Not really weeks, they're half weeks, I think it was. Clearly not weeks. Yeah, there was something I wanted to fucking say. I don't remember what it was. It's just that it's been so easy following this little pattern where nothing was happening, but, you know, everything felt comfortable. And I'm still sort of in that. Oh yeah, I know what it was. The Brits have the capacity to counter air. Now, it doesn't mean anything right now because the fighters are inactive. I can't engage them. But I would have the ability to hit them once they become active, to knock them out. But I no longer have air superiority. This Italian G50 is as good as my Hurricane was, and my Hurricane's damaged now. So I'm actually at a penalty in terms of the air power balance, which how likely is that? I think it's fairly likely at this point. Now I do have more planes coming in up here, so all is not lost. But I probably don't want to play air superiority games, and in fact, what I may want to do is hide my fighters so the Italians don't hit them. I think I'll leave my fighters where they are because they'll probably cause attrition to the Italians if they try hitting them. But the Italians have a slight advantage in doing an air superiority fight right now. You know, it brings to mind ideas like, remember that campaign game of Wild Blue Yonder I was playing? Maybe I could do the air combats and missions out using Wild Blue Yonder. And then I'm like, don't be a fucking idiot. You know, this is a complex enough game, but I always want to do that kind of scale shift type stuff. It always intrigues me. And I'm like, wouldn't it be cool to play DAK as like a scenario generator for Wild Blue Yonder? And the answer is no, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. But air and naval games work really, really well in that sense, because generally there's no terrain impacts. Sure, there's targets and whatever. Those can be represented in Wild Blue Yonder. In naval, there might be islands and stuff like that that you have to, and coastlines that you concern yourself with. And space games also work. But yeah, for the most part, it's like land games do not translate well to playing out a land battle out of the campaign, simply because you don't get the right, you have to figure out what the right terrain is, and it's either going to be some kind of, Battles of the Age of Reason, which I played with a group, because I didn't have, the minis to do it myself, had a nice campaign system where like players kind of roll their main leader's capability in it, and one of their capabilities, like strategic capability or something like that, and that like allowed them to control terrain points and issues of setup and stuff like that, so that they got to choose the battlefield, as it were. The problem is, it still doesn't capture that operational to tactical linkage where it's like, yeah, but why am I here? I'm not just here to kill the enemy. I've got reasons that I need to be here. And that doesn't align very well. And the same is true with naval as well. Why not just break away? Air makes a little bit of difference because usually you have a very clear mission that you're trying to accomplish. So those actually, the Wild Blue Yonder would work relatively well as a way of resolving things. Yeah, relatively well, sure. All right, I am going to pause because I'm struggling with playing Raid at the same time. This next couple of weeks is going to be hell, though. I could tell, because I'm going to be playing a lot of Raid over it, and I don't want to lose the kind of flow that I've been having while I've been not needing to play the damn stupid addiction. All right, let's try to squeeze another one out. Second turn of December. The weather has shifted a little. Instead of maps 1 and 2, now 3 and 4 have a rainstorm. This is definitely going to prevent anything if anything was going to happen. I wouldn't have started the turn if anything was going to happen, though. And the Italians won the initiative, so the Brits are going first. The 4th Indian was released here as well, and we had a replacement unit starting to slowly shift some things out of Mersa Matruh. Can't do it very fast because of the rainstorm, and it impacts my truck schlepping over here. The Italians, on the other hand, sort of still a mixed strategy, pulling a couple machine gun units plus as much supply as they can in. I ended up shipping those 2 new good units up there to Tobruk. I want to get them into a nice position. I don't know where that's going to be. It's not going to be all the way at the front. It's going to be either Bardia or Tobruk. Probably going to fortify Tobruk a little harder. Just because I'm expecting to lose Bardia. I'm expecting to lose everything, but there's some hope for Tobruk holding out. And that means these big infantry divisions that I wanted to get up into Tobruk those are going to have to move more slowly. I may actually have to reduce my supplies going into Tobruk to start shifting some of those over. The rest are on their way walking, but I don't know which is going to end up faster. Truck couldn't do anything again because all the supplies moved out. And that is probably it for today, which means probably it until Sunday at the earliest. Let me take a look at the next turn. Well, the next turn is a nothing turn, so if I really, really wanted to, I could try to squeeze it in. Problem is, I gotta take a dump, and it's almost dancing time. It's almost time for me to play Raid and get into that cycle where, I was playing Raid before, but get into that cycle where, I'm preparing for dancing and whatnot. It's actually already shaved. It's kind of cool to leave an easy turn as my first turn coming back after a couple of days off. So there's something appealing to that as well. Let's not push things too hard. These easy turns take 10 minutes, 15 minutes when I don't have to look up rolls or anything. So here it is, Sunday. Yeah, I've started this month already, so I've already talked a little bit. Super Bowl Sunday, actually, which would be a great time, given my food stocks and whatnot, for me to have gone to the supermarket. But, because, you can go bowling at the supermarket. And then it's Super Bowl, right? I don't know. Anyway, unfortunately, Raid has one of their big, 2-week events and whatever in play. And I kind of am drawn into playing certain things of it today that make, I don't know. I mean, I'm making the time to play some of this, so it's like, yeah, I'm not just completely on my ass, but it's a little different to come here, play for 15 minutes, a half hour, a turn or two as a break, and the 2.5 hours it takes me to do a shopping trip. Most of it in transit. And in terms of how much of my day I'm using up. And I'm looking at it, and I think tomorrow should be an easier day for me. And if weather is okay, I can do it. I'm not starving or anything, obviously, but I'm not happy with where my stocks of food are. On the bright side, starting Friday night, Saturday, really, I'm beginning to feel the pull to get the fuck out of Raid and just, it's been, I don't know what, I guess a year and a half or so, maybe more. I can't even tell how much time has gone by. It's either been a year and a half or 2.5 years. I don't know. But it feels like I've wasted so much fucking time. And I just don't want to, the game's not fun. It never has been. Anyway, let's get to this thing, which maybe is fun. And it's hard to tell, I mean, I wouldn't be playing any of these games probably at all or very often, if I wasn't videoing. But I've created such structures before where I did my walkthrough history, which basically I played now this is when I had half as many games and still far more than I should. But this is when I basically went through every one of my historical war games and political stuff and things and played them in terms of the date that they represented. And that was kind of unpleasant in some ways, in the sense of always being stuck in the same period, often with the same systems and whatnot, instead of flitting around like I'm doing now. But I kind of need some kind of structure, something to make me want to do the next game, right? And that's actually like, some people ask, well, how do you, how do you get these things to the table, whatever? How do you convince yourself? Yeah, it's usually now with frameworks around it, because the collection's gotten, so big, and it was back then in its own way. All right, let's roll some dice and see what the turn's going to be like. Another light turn, not a hell of a lot happening, just supplies moving around, no events, nothing too important. I'm looking at my timeline. My release of the Australian division, is on the 12th of December. That means that they're going to have some driving to do just to get up to the Mersa Matruh area. But that gives me a third division. I'll have the Australian, the Indian, and the armored, 7th Armored, to conduct my attacks with. So I kind of feel like that's the moment at which I start moving my stuff forward, is when that's released. It'll give it, it'll be a turn behind, but that's okay. And some of that moving stuff forward has to do with getting supplies forward to wherever I'm going to launch the attack from. Like if I choose Piccadilly Circus, we got another one somewhere else, right? Is it this one? Yeah. Somewhere they have another location that is clearly, named after a London area. I don't remember which one it is. I had run across it before, and it was kind of cute to see these. Hey, this is where everything's happening. Anyway, just to indicate that it's a centerpiece. So I've got like one more turn before I start operating. It was actually a turn off in my calculations, I think. I don't know. That has a marker for the 15th. That's just removing a gladiator. I think, I don't know what I was thinking, but this is the turn of the 12th, and that's when the release happened. And I've moved the Australians into place. I haven't got my supplies nor armies as far forward as I kind of hoped to, but I don't quite know what to do. Do I want to try to put pressure over here? The stacks look more daunting than I remember when I did the compass scenario. Also a little bit more concentrated, and I'm trying to see, is there some way around, could I slip around here? Not really. I don't have the kind of forces that I can leave kind of a pinning force and send the supply route, through here or something. Plus, trace supply would be difficult. Can't do it on trails. You need to be on roads. Even for the Brits, the Italians have their problems right now, but they're okay. And it's easier to be on the defense. One thing I've noticed is the Italians have left Solom undefended, which might be a real problem. There's a lot of supplies there. Those are going to get eaten up pretty fast once the fighting starts, though, so I think I'm okay. Italians moved one of their big divisions into Tobruk from Benghazi. And I mean, they could recover that doubly, essentially, to full strength, I believe, with the replacements they have in place. But it might be better to just recover it one step and then send it on its way, get another one in there. Brits got a new air unit, and I think we're done with this turn. all that happens on this turn is I lose a plane. Fucking gladiator, right? Do I even have a gladiator left? Yeah, it's one of my fighters. Well, but yeah, if that's the case, on the British turn, let me rewind a little bit. Really, I just did movement, and there's nothing else to do. I may want to do some counter error against these, see if I can get something killed. Because I got a couple of... I hate doing this because the good plane isn't available, which means... But at the very least, I can fly that gladiator, which I'm going to have to remove, and attempt that. And then maybe if things are good, I'll keep going. The reason I want to do this is I'm going to have to refresh that base anyway. Hey, well, nothing good came of it. I lost a step off the gladiator, and that's it. Jeez. I'm trying to convince myself whether I want to start really playing, because this is where, you know, where the game actually starts to get going again. Yeah, sure, the Italians made their little shot at Mersa Matrua. That did not go terribly well. I know I'm going to fuck shit up. I just do. I know I'm going to do poorly here. Getting a good attack in to start things off is really important, and I just know I can't. Plus, I'm hungry. So I think I'm going to take a little bit of a break, maybe for the day, I don't know. But I may come back and take another crack at it. Well, there was a not insignificant chance that things could be delayed this turn. We had a rainstorm come up, but on maps 1 and 2, and that's just good for the Brits. They're not going to be heading for Tobruk yet, and map 3, or map C, is clean. They also won the initiative, so they're going to force the Italians to go first. And I'm not expecting the attack to start, but I'm expecting things to start moving into position, get prepared for it, right? As much as I can. It's going to be tough. Let me figure out, once the rainstorm, which is basically a 1 in 6 chance, comes up, it would have been a 20% chance on the first die roll, and then a 25% of 80, which to me, oddly enough, comes out to like the 40%, right? Like, I'm doing that right. 25%, no, 25%, no, 20%, which leaves 80. So 25% of that for the 4 remaining maps, yeah, comes out to the 40% that, like, you would kind of naively might think, oh, well, you know, 1 in 5 plus 1 in 5. Really odd. I'm always intrigued when there's like these little congruencies like that, I don't know. Anyway, I guess we start moving the Italians. Push the Brits forward. Not quite in contact yet. And try to figure out, you know, what I want where and all that. Realize I'm being an idiot. There are plenty of detraining stations along the railway that I can trace supply to. I don't have to trace supply back to Alexandria directly. The railroad is sufficient. And I've been like, ooh, have to stop at LL Maine because that's like within draw range from Alexandria. It hasn't mattered, but now it does because I have like this unit, which I wasn't going to move at all and haven't been moving because it requires fuel. It still requires fuel. So yeah, I don't know what I'm thinking here. Nah. Never mind. Yeah, I was doing it right. Yeah. I have trace supply off the railway. That's no big deal. I have trace supply off the road that the railway's on. You know? There's no difference between the two at this point. At some point later on, there might be. But right now, yeah, there's absolutely no difference whatsoever. Here's the trickiness. After positioning my forces, I have to decide where the fuck the headquarters can go. I've paid to fuel it up to move it. But I need to be able to supply these guys and all of this. Now, some of it along this highway, I can go back to Mersa Matrua, no problem. But back here, this is the worst. 3, 4, 5. Only gets to there. Slope gives me some capability. I can cross the slope though. So again, this highway is providing me with supplies for anybody who's along that. And it might work for these guys as well. But I have a feeling I want to be here at this crossroads for the maximum capability to cover supplies for all of these. I only have one headquarters for the Brits. And of course I want to give it some kind of garrison, so I stuck a little unit under there. Nothing too big. Probably not enough, to be honest, but I don't know. And I mean, I could like fuel this guy up and give him movement rate up there, and that probably wouldn't be too bad a choice as well. The nice thing about this is it's the Desert Raiders, and they have a very high movement capability that counts as foot. Well, it doesn't look all that high here, but it counts as foot no matter what. They're always able to like find supplies. I think maybe this armored unit out of Mersa Matrua, because I do have a garrison there, including some Egyptians, but I hate using up fuel, but honestly, I've got tons of fuel here. I've got to move it up to the front. And then the next thing I do is I shift the trucks to get as much fuel as I can within range of this guy. Now, again, I don't want it to be in a dump where it's not defended, so I'm probably going to put it right there on his crossroads, even though he could draw back from 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, honestly, putting it someplace like this would actually be better because it's far from the enemy lines, and I could just, again, fuel up another unit and push it into place. The headquarters has got some defensive capability. A supply dump does not. That's the one thing you really don't want to leave undefended. And the trucks, doing this little shuttling maneuver, managed to get just 2 points of supply here. And unfortunately for me, this is the 7th Armored up here. That needs fuel to operate. Now, what's nice about it is, I think there's not a lot of I didn't put a lot of non-divisional stuff up there, which means that I can fuel up the 7th Armored for movement with just one supply point for that. But I'm going to be at some risk here until I can get more supplies into this general area. I found this the problem when I played the actual compass scenario, which I think the Brits started with their stuff better set up than I'm doing. Of course, the Italians were probably better set up too. So, you know, mistakes on all ends. Do I want to? I don't want to fuck around with these planes. I need to be able to neutralize them when I want to send my bombers in. That's absolutely key. And so I think that is the end of this turn. I've got a marker there that I don't know what it's for. That was the remove the gladiator. Okay. And that means we're ready for the show to start, I think. I'm scared. Luckily for me, it's past time for me to be playing some Raid, which means that's the end for tonight. And I don't know. here I am, nighttime. I'm looking at DAK and thinking, geez, do I want to try playing this? As I had a lot of coffee tonight, and I assumed I would be able to play. I was going to try Air Empire. Ugh, it's dark as hell. Let's at least get some light so you can see the map better. It's actually, I probably could. The lighting's not that bad. I say to myself as I look over at the darkness over here, but it's really not that bad. And I've got a good centering here. Yeah, there's a nasty glare. I was going to try playing Air Empire, which is a really cool Avalon Hill like business game from the 60s that I played once at Concept World. But, yeah, of all places, where it was auctioned off. And unfortunately, it's a bidding game. And I just didn't feel like I could handle, there's too much bidding in it. Kind of like things like Executive Decision or Business Strategy also has that, although I think I did kind of play that out for some reason just to show it. I know I did a video coverage of it. And then after that, I started hunting down, okay, are there any Euros I can get down there? And I looked at one, a fucking worker placement. I'm like, no. Pulled another one out. And the problem with the Euros is the rule books. Like, I have enough trouble tackling them when I'm not in an altered state. And I'm like just too hyped up on the coffee to cope with them. But can I cope with this? Oh, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't want to fuck things up worse than I'm going to when I'm like unaltered. So I think I'll just keep trying. The problem is I'm done with Raid for at least a couple of hours, which makes it a perfect time to like throw another game on down there or to take a nap, but I'm in no state to take a nap. Oh well, here we are on Monday. It's supposed to be mostly dry, and this would be the best day for me to go shopping. But in order to help convince myself, I'm gonna try to pop another turnout after my rather exuberant night last night in terms of like just energy and whatnot, too much coffee. And the Italians get the initiative, forcing the Brits to make their move now. All right, well, I don't know. Okay, we pushed down to through the movement barrage segment. We're on supply at this point. I have conducted a successful fighter sweep, knocking the Italian fighters both out, no losses, and shifted my forces forward for their attacks. Yeah. 1X is close enough. These guys are able to trace back to Mersa Matrua, which might be really important. In fact, I think I'm gonna leave some other artillery back there as well because I'm worried about my supply situation. Shifted my supplies as I normally would. Just, you know, what's through shipping and rail. Used my trucks to pull supplies from here to my dump towards the front, which the headquarters can use. The headquarters can throw it to here, can throw it up here. And the way the roads are, I'm not quite able to get into range of that. 1X is close enough, even over impassable terrain and whatnot, which is part of the problem. The Italian defense actually has some resilience that I think the one for the compass scenario did not. Used my bombers and got a successful disorder with no flak hits. And now it's the Italian reaction. They have units in reserve. They can throw a whole lot of shit in there. That shit will increase the density, which means bombardments are more likely to succeed and do damage. So it's risky. I don't know what I want to do, but that's kind of where the decision is. But the really harsh thing is there's not a hell of a lot of supply up here. In terms of, you know, 2 SPs, that's one sort of huge artillery fire. But I've also got to use ammo for the troops. I don't know if that's enough to cover what's all here. I'm going to shift those artillery back. Whatever is in these 2 hexes and can reach can be there. And actually even here, because that's an escarpment. Impassable, right? Impassable. Tell me. It's prohibited for movement. Only attackable across a road, yeah. So I could actually have units in this hex safely. I chose to drop reserves up here, is basically anywhere where I didn't move. Since everything fucking moved, I put them on some of the most useless pieces that I have up there. Do I want an extra strength point? An extra strength point can always be important. Let's just push that into there too. What the hell? My plane, I could do a rebase mission if there's any air base. It looks to me like Mersa Matruh is the closest. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm not going to have air cover, which means the Italians can use their airplanes to bombard me. They can, of course, use their artillery to try to slow me down. And I probably don't want to hit disordered versus disordered. Should I have just done fucking overruns? Maybe? Maybe. I'm the Brits. I have better quality stuff. Oh. But I couldn't have disordered anything under those circumstances, right? Problem is the sequence of play, the barrage segment, this is the defending the reaction barrage, but the barrage segment happens during the combat phase. I wouldn't have access to my artillery. And for air barrage, I don't have hip shots yet, or hip shoots. So you'd pretty much be trying to overrun big stacks in hedgehogs. I just don't think that works. Plus, the Allied capabilities, their quality is reduced for the Australians. The Indians look okay. The Australians would be reduced, which, okay, I wouldn't do it with them, but the Indians would be okay, and the 7th Armored, I guess, is okay. But they're also not that high. And the Italian Air Force is able to stymie the attacks up here, largely. I could conceivably make an attack with that. Was not able to hit this, and that's important. I do have some artillery there, so I can drop some more points. The annoying brigades have an extra step that's not marked on the counters, starting to take effect. I'm getting kill counters, kill markers under brigade units. I really don't like that. I don't know. They should have the indication the same way the divisions do. There's no reason for them not to, given, that it's a change in the normal rules. Are also able to barrage this, which As far as I'm concerned, stymies the entire Allied attack. Everything's been hit. I feel like I have more firepower at the front than I did in the historical compass scenario. Mostly in terms of planes. So I don't know if I've like lost less planes than the Italians historically did, but I don't feel like the Allies, the Commonwealth wants to make attacks. Even like here, obviously, I haven't even disordered the enemy. I'm also not going to waste supply on disordering the enemy. I'm going to sit up here. We can attrition the Italian supply. You know, I don't know how much they have. They have quite a bit up in the front. Not as much as I do, but you know, that does not seem like an effective use of the game mechanisms. But as long as they can, you know, keep bringing air power and artillery to bear against me, I don't know how I'm going to get through. Overruns, perhaps. And the Italians recover in their turn. And the great offensive seems to have not really happened. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't want this to be a war of attrition, but yeah, I'm just not sure what else it kind of can be at this point. I'm trying to figure out what I may have done wrong, whatever, but I also, you know, I mean, I don't want to waste a lot of supplies on attack. The attacker spends more supplies than I can't afford, right? That's a part of it. I really do need to shift, you know, more stuff into my dump and everything, and I don't want to take losses. So, yeah. Screw up. I'm not going to go back and reverse it. There was an Italian artillery in here that I fired that had 7 points. I got a pretty high roll on it, so I think it would have happened no matter what. But it was a disordered artillery unit. I couldn't find a counter battery fire roll or anything like that, but there actually is. If your artillery is disordered, it only fires at half strength, which also means you use less ammo. But I'm just leaving it as it is. All right, let's try another turn. But I mean, it's the air units that are the real problem, and what can I do about them? Let me see if there's. I mean, I'm actually, although this is stupid, but I'm actually within range that I could sweep them, I think. But I need to get the fighter out of the way. And that would help, or I could sweep. Yeah, because you can hit any aircraft, which is why the British planes moved so far back. But honestly, the Italian planes could also move pretty far back if that kind of counter-air operations are being done. What else could I do? I'm wondering, because there's things like naval bombarding naval bases and whatnot. I think I can bombard air bases. No, only in movement. Yeah, okay. So yeah, the only thing I'd have is the fighter sweep, which feels a little weird, right? Like, I shouldn't be able to sweep bombers out of the sky. I should be able to, however, attack their infrastructure. Now, strafing, you could argue, can do some, but I should be able to attack the infrastructure with with my own bombers, for what it's worth. This time, the British fighter sweep didn't clear all the Italian planes, which is problematic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got range. If British planes come in to bomb any of those things that can provide flak, we got issues. The fighter will just go after them. And my fighters have been neutralized, which again means I'm probably in a lot of trouble in terms of getting my attacks off here without air support, essentially. There's one important thing, which is the Italians have to barrage first. Air attacks happen, you know, the attacker makes his air attacks back here in the barrage segment of the movement phase. But in the reaction phase, the Italians have to barrage with their artillery first, and before the Brits, as the offensive side in this situation, has to commit their artillery, which means that the defensive artillery that I'm using is exceedingly supply intensive. Like, sure, I can stop the attacks each turn, but in doing so, I am definitely eating up the Italian supply reserves. Is that wise or not? Like, look, it sure made sense when I had disorders on those Italian units. But right now I'm not disordered, but I might be. It's really tough to make this decision to expend now. I do have the capability, though, of throwing my air units in the barrage segment in order to attack, because the Brits no longer, well, they didn't have their fighter cover anyway. They don't have a base anywhere near the front right now. Mersa Matruh is as close as it gets. And I used only air bombardment. I didn't throw my artillery in. Basically, you have a choice. You can do one barrage in each hex per segment. And the defender has the disadvantage of only having one applicable segment. Well, I missed this unit. I could barrage this with artillery. It's a little, well, I shouldn't be pawing through the pieces, but it's a small stack. I'm not really that worried that that stack is going to be making the attack. I could also conceivably do a counter barrage against this, but I don't have a spotter there, which makes that really ineffectual. So I guess I could move reserves up, but that makes me more vulnerable. Like, everything is just so ugly. Like, the reserves are actually problematic because they fill out the space and make it more painful. Because of the obnoxiousness of, and maybe this changes in DAK too, of the specific rules on the brigade groups, I have to try to figure out, hey, does the 6th Australian, which is the unit that's available for me to use for attack without penalty, does that have a divisional artillery, or is it in a brigade group? And geez, I don't remember where it specifies that information. I'm in the brigade group section. If I'm in the brigade groups, I have artillery intrinsic to each brigade unit of like 5 points. again, not on the counters or anything like that. I'm wondering if DAK 2 actually has substitute counters for the brigade groups when they're in play and when they're not. I understand that they made a number of enhancements that have that help the play a fair amount. I found it. So the 4th Indian is the one, I think, is the only division that doesn't use brigade groups at the beginning. But I did happen to notice 6th Australian is green, which means it effectively doesn't have the advantages of brigade groups anyway until it recovers from that. We got the disordered marker. I actually don't even know if I have artillery in range. Oh yeah. Yeah, I had a bunch I could have used. Well, I couldn't though because I flew my planes against that hex. I could have used it against this hex, and that's what I decided against. So yeah, I got my disordered marker. I think we're going to go into the details of the combat one more time. This is more likely to be a successful attack, and I don't want to zoom in on combat all that often unless there's something particularly interesting going on. So let's get to the combat rules, and we'll follow it once more. And then from now on, you know, for the most part, I'm going to, I think, be worried more about the narrative of the story than all the individual die rolls. You know, like, I haven't been covering the air combat die rolls, right? Because I don't need that anymore. Okay, so we're going to attack from these 2 hexes into there. First thing we do is we're attacking a slope, but it's a down slope, which I think has no impact on us. So there is no terrain here, but there is a hedgehog. Okay. I don't think I have much armor in play. If I had armor, it would be open terrain, which would double armor or mechanized units. Don't think I have any with the Australians there. And now I'm going to count up the supply requirements that I have. The Italians have to spend 2 tokens in supply, which I can get back from Solon, but I got to count what the Brits have to use. From here, nope, all of my supplies have to come from back at the headquarters, which means this hex here, which is sort of my choke point. I need to clear this hex so that I can start supplying into there. It ended up costing me 6 tokens. One thing I can do is I can spread my units. So my quality rating is 3. Now I believe disordered drops me 1 quality rating. The hedgehog, I think, adds 1. All kind of complicated stuff to look up, right? Combat mode, disorganized, halved combat, barrage and movement, subtract 1 from action rating, yeah. And then, where's the hogs? They have their own rules. Yeah, here I am paging through very slowly. There we go. And their effects, they have a die roll modifier equal to their level, their heavy anti-tank, which would mean it cancels out the tank. Well, no, heavy anti-tank. I think that still drops it down to 1.5 instead of 2. they affect surprise with a -1 DRM. It doesn't look like they actually impact your quality, but the effect is the same. A -1 DRM to the surprise roll and -1 to the die roll. So the impact is the same. So I kind of remembered it right, even though they don't state it that way. All right, so if I'm going to put the 3 up here, and let's look, the Brits are going to throw everything in, but what am I going to open up with? And yeah, I used my my organic supply. So I'm going to use one of these 4-point units, but it actually is a 3 because they're green. Terrain choices, I really don't have any. So we know what the DRM is going to be. We are a 3, they're a 3, dropped down to 2 because of disorder, raised up to 3 because of, well, essentially 3 because of the hedgehog. So there's no DRM. We roll surprise now. Surprise, supplies. Did we pay everything? This is a regular attack, so we use this table instead of the more volatile overrun table. And we get a 4, which means the defender is going to get surprise. Okay. Now I guess I count the forces. I don't know his strength because he's reduced because of that casualty marker. I don't remember how many points he's reduced by it. There we go. One or more steps halves its combat strength when it attacks. So there's a proportional roll as an option. I do not know that I want to do that. Let's look at this again. Wait. Oh, fuck. I lost it. A multi-step unit losing 1 or more halves its combat strength when it attacks. If it's missing half or more of its original printed steps, its combat strength is halved on defense. I think that's going to be the same whether you use proportional or not for this. Okay, so we're looking at 4, 13, 14, 15 strength points halved is 7.5. Hold that in mind. 2, 6, 12, this is halved, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 and a half, because I believe this counts as armor. $20, $21, 27 and a half to 7.5. Where's my calculator? This game absolutely needs one. I'll be back. Normally, with most games, 27.5 to 7.5, you would say, oh, that's not quite 4 to 1, so it's 3 to 1. It would be really easy. But because of the fucking rounding roll in these, okay, that didn't work. So I'm looking, that can't be right. Maybe my calculator is dead. 27.5 divided by, clear entry, divided by 7.5. That looks like 4-1, but I'm absolutely not sure that there's a decimal point in there. Let's see if I get the same result again. So I think my calculator is being funky. This is so weird that this happens. Yeah, see? It's giving me random numbers. Okay, well, calculator's not an option, I guess. So let me think. 7.5 times 3.5. Yeah, it's not going to work on that either, is it? Because that's going to be my cheat. Well, it does. That gets me 26.25, which means that I've got 4-1 odds on here. Where was I? Okay, it's open at 4-1, and surprise gives us, oh, we have the sequence here. I don't need to keep looking in the rules. Surprise gives us 6 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, that sounds amazing for the defense, right? And it is. It's huge. And now there's a -1 to the die roll. Well, quality kicks in. So the die roll is at even. We get an 8. Attacker loses 1 with an option for 1. Defender has an option for 1. I don't feel, I don't know. The attacker loses 1. That's the first thing. We take a hit on this. We have an option for 1. I could take another hit or I could fall back. If I fall back, that means that the Italians take nothing from this. But if I don't fall back, I take another hit and the Italians have to take a hit. Which way do I want to have this happen? It's a good fucking question. My armored unit is a little heavier than these guys are. I had a real 4 I could have thrown in. Oops. Okay. Definitely should have done that. Did not realize. Oh boy, this is the kind of decision that's really tough. And do I want to trade hits with the Italians? If I trade hits with the Italians, I'm taking a bigger, better unit for one of their crappy things. But on the other hand, I'm getting nothing if I fall back. Also, in addition, I have to spend fuel to move this back up if I fall back. I don't think I'm in a position to continue the attack is the problem. So I think I'm gonna give ground and let the Italians hold this. Also forgot I had the option to throw him in as, He can't be on the road there. Gotta be there. Because otherwise I'd be retreating into a zone and taking additional penalties. I forgot that I had a leader there that I could have thrown in for an extra die roll modification, whatever, at risk to his life. So, you know, you can make arguments, it's not worth it, whatever. He's more valuable for his reactive capabilities. Well, once again, not a good turn for the Brits at all. Getting surprised by the Italian army was not pleasant. And I'm really not in any position to exploit anything, so we will just clean up what we took losses on. Ouch. Shit, this battery's dead. I replaced the one I had in here, apparently with one that never charged. Okay, great. This one's in worse shape. So here we are. I expected the Brits to kind of roll the Italians over the way they do in Africa, right? And nope. You know, sure. I got unlucky with the surprise roll, although that was an even up odds. It shouldn't have been if I'd done things right. And then, you know, got a terrible result on the surprise, which put me in very bad shape. I did have to check. So there was an armored unit in there, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I want to get that destroyed, actually, even though it's kind of a little bit better. Its quality sucks, but it's a little bit better. But the problem with armored units is they take equipment to replace. But if it was one of these guys, I would have wanted to. But those are all 7th armored. This is 6th Australian, so not an issue. I'll replace this battery as well. We'll do the Italian turn. And then I think I piss around a little bit and go shopping. And the Italians are feeling confident with their success. I built another hedgehog here at Solom. Help protect Bardia. If I can stop the Brits, man, what the hell, you know? Mainly because of the attrition it'll cause them more than anything else, but also avoiding giving them advantages. I've got all kind of high hopes with my Italians now. And over at Tobruk area, I'm actually going to build one here as well. I have a limited number, but it's a fairly high number. I feel like I can build, you know, an El Alamein line or something along that line, you know, down in that area, if I absolutely need to try to corral the Brits in later in the game. But right now, I'm looking at, damn, if I can cost them enough to take Tripoli, or to take Tobruk, yeah, if they take Tripoli. Also, you can see the artillery's heading down on its way, shipping divisions into Tobruk, taking as much supply as I can rather than bring this artillery in. It's only one token difference, but, you know, I'm sending enough. I'm sending enough in. I actually cheated. Oops. I gotta bring a token back that I sent here. This, because the way I cheated was I sent this truck off, and essentially I was one token short with everything I shipped of what was in Tripoli at the beginning of the turn. I'm taking the full 2 points of supply, which is fine. You know, it just, I sent an extra, I sent shipments up here because I've got thoughts of, you know, slowing the Brits down everywhere. This is kind of an iffy place because there's good roads coming through. Wow, my map is misaligned. Got to fix that. They all kind of do, but that one has gotten pretty bad. What are you up to, dude? There are plenty of other paths through here. If we look over here near the big rock, the only road cutting here is up here. You know, kind of parallel to the coast. Sure, you could avoid Tobruk. You could bypass Tobruk if you wish to. But not to the degree that you can bypass, Jebel Akbar or whatever. Okay. That should be it for now, possibly for the day. I don't know. I don't know what shopping is going to do to me. I don't even know if I'm going to make it. But, oops, I've got rain over here that was not in place. And over here, that was from prior turns, a couple of turns ago. But, you know, I mean, I'd be kind of excited if the Brits broke through, but I'm also kind of excited that they failed. I'd just like to see what happens. But I am worried that I just do not know how to attack in this game, in the series. Well, I made it back from shopping, but I'm exhausted. I was dripping sweat when I get back, and then, you know, it's raid time. I'm doing what I can in that. I have enough light here that I could, like, squeeze another turn in, conceivably. But it just doesn't seem worth it. I'm too pooped out, and I mean, what I'm thinking is I'll play what raid I can, and then I'm gonna take a nap. I don't know. Hauling the cart up my hill, it's exhausting. You know, I talk about, wow, I'm tired after a 3-hour walk or whatever. Well, this is essentially 3 hours out of the house, walking around. Sure, some of it's in the supermarket, but it's like 2.5 hours, you know, back and forth. And that second hour and a quarter on the way back is rough. It is, it's a big pull, and I don't have it in me. So tomorrow, I'm hoping to do some stuff with my wood. Probably, I've got my chainsaw charged up and whatnot, so I'm not sure I'm going to be doing a hell of a lot tomorrow either in terms of the game. But we're beginning to see, you know, like, I feel like I'm actually doing some shit in my life, which, no big plans, nothing huge, just sort of a day at a time, whatever. Well, I think my plans are foiled. Not only is it foggy and cold, like, the cold's not so bad. Moving wood when I'm cold isn't bad at all. But apparently, the aching and tiredness that I had yesterday, I'm sick as fuck. I've got a fever and have no ability to play DAK, no ability to chop wood, nothing. Here it is, Wednesday. Not too bad a looking day. I gotta go get my garbage. I don't know if I can. All Tuesday, I mean, I was up for no more than an hour at a time, maybe 2 hours, delirium, all kind of fun stuff. And I kind of enjoyed that. Now I just feel a little less than normal. And I could probably play. We'll see. If I feel any better than I do right now, like, I mean, everything fucking aches and everything. But I feel like my mind's clear and I am not, like, passing out. But yeah, we'll see. Unfortunately, colds like this have a way of turning into just kind of nastiness for a couple of weeks. And I'm hoping that's not the path this takes. I felt like I was getting better, and I might have been, and it might go down and come back, whatever. It won't come back with the fever, but so far I'm feeling this kind of annoying level of sniffles, sneezes, that kind of shit, none of which was present before. And just don't feel up to actually playing right now. Sniffles and fatigue or no, I got about 10 minutes. Turns take about a half hour right now. I got about 10 minutes till raid comes in. I took up, I don't know what they are, Naxapril sodium, something like that. It's my painkiller of choice right now. Sometimes I use aspirin for certain things, but I feel a little bit better. I'm going to try to slide one turn in. No events, weather. Italians got the initiative, and they have chosen to force the Brits to keep going first. The Brits would go first anyway, I think. I'm not sure. See, their fighters are uncycled, which is somewhat, that could cause issues, but I feel like that's more a problem on the defensive side. Oh, God. I had some soup and it's trying to come up. The Italian fighters are fine, which means I could actually shift this, but I don't think it really does me any good to do so. So I'm going to just leave the Brits there because it takes away a potential for a British double turn. I've been cheating. I've been using airstrips as though they're level 1 air bases. I'm going to charge the Italians basically 1 supply point to put level 1 air bases in all of these. Sure, it should have happened earlier, but I think it's a reasonable substitute. I'm going to take it from Bardia. I've got too much supply there. I probably would have managed from Tobruk. See, the thing is, I'm not sure Tobruk can reach here, but it could have reached all of these. So I probably would have taken 3 tokens from Tobruk and 1 from Bardia or something. But it really doesn't matter. Whoa, why do I have so much in Solemn? Jesus, that's a lot of supply. Yeah, maybe I'll take it from Solemn. That looks less likely to survive. But I'm just going to do that now as a fix and put some air bases down. That might potentially end up giving the Allies some advantage, but it would have been cheaper to do that very early rather than recharge my air units. Because the airstrip, the big difference is the airstrips can only refresh 1 air unit per turn. And the actual air bases can do 2. So that works a little better. A couple things about this. This is the kind of fix. Ooh, that Italian disordered unit there. Why is that still disordered? That should not be. Because it was an Italian turn last. Okay. That kind of fix is the kind of thing I feel absolutely no compunction about going back and doing. You know, it doesn't hurt anything, and it is exactly what was required. The upgrade cost is just 1 token, which is nothing. You know, it's the cost of refreshing the air units there. So if you're going to actually use an airstrip, fuck it, you know, might as well do that. It's not like the Brits wouldn't, you know, if they actually need it, they could do it as well. So I'm not too worried about it there. It's also a sign that mentally I'm doing okay, because this is something this isn't something I just noticed or whatever. This is something that a couple of days ago I remember thinking, gee, I ought to check that, but I didn't run back and do it. I figured I'd be able to play or whatever, and then shopping, sickness, whatever, all got in the way. But it shows that I've still got memory in existence and things like that, which I did not yesterday. I shuffled trucks. I drained this. Oh, not completely. What the hell? Oh, well. I thought I drained that. And then started pulling from Mersa Matrua. But actually something really cool happens there. I've got full trucks here. That gives me a kind of a cheat. because you can draw supply out of full trucks, and then you don't have to pay the 4.5 movement points to unload the trucks. Any game has its little weirdnesses. This game has so much detail with moving the supplies and the costs with it, and so much effort put into that. It does feel funky though. But otherwise, things like the organic trucks couldn't even work because they can never dump their supplies off anywhere. They can just be used to flip values. Anyway, I don't know if I have like, 7th Armor has to have an organic truck somewhere. And this is actually kind of something I should be using, at least for one of my tokens. But it's so hard when you're dealing in such tiny numbers and you need to spend, you know, like 2 supply points for an attack or something like that. It's just so hard to remember to hunt down that truck or whatever you're doing. Again, a failure at air superiority, and in this case I lost a Hurricane. The Italians actually outnumber me air unit now. Not good. Do I want to risk my bombers under those conditions, you know? I mean, not really. I could send 2 bombers in, they would be intercepted, and it could mean that, you know, I lose a step off each of these bombers, and that's not something I really want to see happen. So, I guess I just go with my artillery. I got tons of supply at least. So, and I feel like I'm overanalyzing the situation on video still, but down here, 7th Armored, they have no artillery. And without the air support, just don't feel like I should be battering those units. They're good units. I just don't feel like I should be wrecking them against a hedgehog. Over here, the Italians moved a reserve forward. I haven't been doing that, mainly because most of my reserved are armored units. But in this case, I decided to move those camels in. But then you'll see my bombers managed to disorder the Brits there, but they failed here. And because I chose to use my bombers and not my artillery, don't know why, saving supplies, whatever, now the Brits actually have an opportunity. And the way the sequence of play works, in the reaction phase I can move, okay, that's when the reserve moved in, and then I can barrage. But I can only barrage once, and that's either the bombers or the artillery, and I chose to save ammo. I probably, well, see, I can only send 3 bombers in at a time, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bombers, right? And I used, for some reason, not all of them. I should have shifted that other one in with this. That would have given me a column shift, essentially, but that's okay. And you know, I feel like I shouldn't waste my bombers. Oh, I forgot to make flak rolls for those guys. I ought to do that. This time I threw my leader in and managed to get surprise. Managed to get way over here, a really nice result. This isn't the right die roll. I made my leader loss check. An attacker exploits 3 versus a defender loses 2, option 2 disorder. Okay. A few things I gotta look up on this, but right away I see problems. If I take the option as a retreat, I'm emptying this hex, and that means that those reserve units can be slammed into by the exploitation, and that's not good. Right? Or the disordered units that retreated can be slammed into. If I give the hex up, I'm degrading my defensive position here, and that throws into question the whole Sidi al-Barani line. And I'm thinking I don't want to do that either. On the other hand, I'll lose another division. I lost a couple of machine gun units. If I take the stand and take the attack. And the Brits can still overrun, using their exploit, the same damn hex and cause similar effects, but they may be able to, this may be able to slow them down enough that they won't be able to overrun, say this, as well. It's kind of I have to do some calculations and some thinking to figure out what I want to do there. This is turning out to be an expensive turn because of that kind of stuff. And again, I'm not going to go into this kind of detail later on, but I just wanted to kind of highlight some of the things that come up from, oh look, there's a combat. One thing I do need to look up is the effects of disordered if you're disordered. I don't think there's cumulative effects. So the fact that he's disordered doesn't. There is something, disordered units retreating through an enemy zone of control that causes additional casualties. But that's not a factor that we're going to be facing here. I think I'm going to try to hold that hex, but I got to do some calculations on what the exploitation is going to be. And so the Brits get their primary objective of taking the hedgehog, but the Italians managed to slow them down quite a bit. But now the Italians have to think about what they want to do to try to defend this situation. It's not pleasant. Let's just put it that way. I don't know if it involves a hedgehog here. That may be my best option. At least I wouldn't have to move any of my units that require fuel. Now, not that supplies are a big problem for me. I'm just going to lose them, right? This thing can move a quarter of its movement back here and throw itself back in reserve, which is one of the reasons why I committed it. Because I have to do my movement before my barrage in the reaction segment. So I didn't know where I'm going to get the successes of the disorders that seem to prevent the Brits from wanting to attack. They seem to only want to attack when they've disrupted the enemy units and broken them up quite a bit. I don't know if that's wise or not. That's just sort of the way I remember the game working. I think I can beat things up, these Italian forces up without, but we actually saw me hit Italian forces that were disorganized, and I got repulsed by them. The combat result system for this can be very, very random at times, which I like. Okay, I think that puts us to the Italian side of the turn. I'll try to handle that. Whew. Let's get a few extra pieces on the board, including a unit I can toss into there. Pulled my reserve back and built that, I want to call them breastworks, hedgehog, whatever, entrenchments to face a possible British further advance. It is not feeling very much like mobile desert warfare yet, but there are times in the war where it definitely didn't. I feel like my Italians are doing a pretty good job of holding off the Brits. Is that because I'm incompetent with the Brits? I don't know. Let me know. Am I just being too cautious? I really don't know. But that's my nature. For me to do aggressive things like, this is something was noted about me. Hey, sometimes you roll a die to make big decisions, not just where there's too much information for a player or something like that. And it's true. Because sometimes I like to test out strategies that don't come natural to me. And I will occasionally do that. It's not really so much for, I was kind of accused of doing it for a role-playing type purpose. It's not. It's more of exploring different strategies, and if I do what comes natural to me, it's going to be very much, I will always think the same way, and it's a very, very cautious means of thinking. Get somebody back there. That's what I think. There I go, pretending to be Joe Biden again. Okay. It's a rainy Thursday. Yeah, battery's almost dead just from sitting out. Odd, I didn't know it would do that. And it just kind of drains it on its own. I'm not here to play. I may end up playing. I may end up not going dancing Friday. We don't know which way that's going. But I wanted to observe something, which is that if you take a look at, just making sure my reflection's not there because I'm pantsless. If you think about last term, the Brits had to go first. If they had gone if they had gotten the results they got, if they had gone second and had gotten the results they got, the Italians wouldn't have a chance to build this hedgehog. And then, if the order changed, the Brits would get essentially a whole new exploitation and probably be able to get Sidi al-Barani very easily from that. So it was kind of important that the Italians kept their move where it is. I just woke up, that's why I don't sound very sensible. I mean, that's why I sound even less sensible than usual, let's put it that way. All right, here we are on the last turn of December. I gotta remember, February doesn't have this turn, just as a thing. No events, no weather. The Italians won the initiative roll. They have no desire to counterattack. So they're going to keep the Brits where they are. Yeah, and all I have is a stuffy nose right now. I feel pretty good. But, well, and aches and pains. But I kind of don't count them. And I'm just going to get that artillery shipped into the port this turn. Which means it can't double dip. It might be able to move. I don't know. I may be delaying the movement of Allied forces too quickly. I have to look at the shipping rules, or too much. It hasn't mattered so far. It really doesn't matter with this. But at some point it's going to matter. I'm going to get things that I want to slide up to the front right away. So, you know, if I can move, say, half or a quarter movement, which might be the case, I'll want to go to El Alamein and as my jumping off point. Correct? Correct. Because everything else is transshipment, the rail cap comes into play and all that. British dumps no longer aligned, trucks, I'm sorry, because I had only two, this guy ought to move. Doesn't really matter where I move him to. Actually, he's fine where he was. He's within throw range and can pick things up more easily. Because I had two of the trucks. Basically, I stopped using this as my primary dump for the railhead. Moved the railhead to the end of the head, which is a point of interest, so I'm able to offload materials there. But after I cleared this out, I figured, okay, I'll stop using that. This would have happened whether I made that change or not. I had run out here. So now I've got like one truck running back and forth to Mersa Matrua and one that was running to Mountain or two that were running to Mountain Bagush eventually. And so they're just a little misaligned now. Still, I haven't devoted any artillery down here. That's fine. I'm making ground here. What the hell? Let's go for it. I got the question of whether or not I want to do a fighter sweep against better odds or just wait. Now, At some point or another, I want to build like an airfield up to protect my British units, but I don't really need an airfield right now. So I'm just pushing forward as much as possible. And we'll see what I can do with my artillery, because, again, I don't want to risk my bombers. And I'm at the point where I kind of don't even want to really risk my fighters. I don't know what comes in next. That was December. Wow. I mean, this is a long list, but I don't see any airplanes here. I'm going to lose planes here. They start getting exchanges. But I'm going to have to do this without air superiority, it looks like. Huh. Well, that's nasty. The Italians winning the air war is part of what's making this hard. Look at the training scenario for Compass. Commonwealth has a Blenheim, a Gladiator, and a Hurricane. So not a lot of bombers, a decent amount of fighters. The Axis has a fair amount as well. I didn't remember there being Italian air parity, but I may have had things set up so that it wasn't really helpful to me. Not sure. We'll see. Well, we won't see, because this is my memory we're working off. Anyway. Supplies, I'm in supply trace everywhere, which means we hit the reaction phase. I gotta take a dump, and then that'll be a while. I take my time on those things. But I'll be back. I want to make sure I get at least a turn in. I might even be able to. Well, then I have to load the video for the month, and then I might be able to squeeze a little more in after I squeeze a little bit out. Mission successful, and I thought maybe I could put 2 turns here, but I'm feeling really fatigued. I'm not through the British turn yet. During the Italian reaction, I caught myself at a reserve marker here. I need it on the artillery. If the artillery is going to fire, it needs a reserve marker. So I moved it there. Okay. And then we pull it off for whatever that matters. I'll keep it up here. I'm going to make little cheats like that. Italians, and the reason this was necessary, Italian planes hit this successfully, hit that unsuccessfully, then I masked their artillery and hit that, killed a unit, I think, did a step loss to one of the brigades. But then the British artillery returned fire up on this hex, got a disorder and wrecked a tank battalion, and I have to think real hard, brigade and battalion. I always get the two mixed up, and I have to kind of parse it in my head. Wait, which is the big one? Okay. But I think the Brits are going to continue on with an attack anyway. They wouldn't have fired otherwise, because I've got these that are undisordered, and I can throw the disordered units in because I'll have a good leader unit. They won't add a lot of strength, but it's probably worth it. Right now my supplies are in pretty good shape, so might as well, I guess. I don't know. See, these little organic trucks are so fucking annoying. It's an extra token. So I'm, drawing most of it back from my main supply dump or whatever, but I've got like this extra single token. I guess they're really useful in some cases, like if you have one unit attacking or something like that, that could be a little out of, out of normal supply range. You pull the truck around to support it or whatever. But they just feel like such a little tiny obnoxious thing that fucks with my counting, and then on my next British turn they're going to just run back and get their supplies and move close to the front again because whatever, I don't know. I mean, it really doesn't matter. I've got this one back here, here, because I can run back to the dump easier and get maximum supply range. This one's really not doing anything, but it kind of feels like a waste not to use it, even though essentially it's just going to go back to one of these dumps and grab the material from back there. So I don't know. Anyway, I haven't figured out the attack yet. Obviously Italians are paying their supply as well. Can't use the internal supplies, which I might want to because I'm going to lose these units, right? And another good set of rolls. I haven't made the loss check for the leader yet. Make it right now, but it's an AE3 DL02. I'm disordered again. I'm sorry, DL202. Oops. Well, there goes one of my bonus leaders, which, these guys are really helpful, but I'll put him here for now. But I don't know. I felt like I was at risk of making an iffy attack. Might as well throw him in, and well, paid the cost. All right. I decide to give up the hex. Falling back. This probably means I build another damn breastwork in that hex. But the nice thing, which is okay, I can fall back with these guys. I'm spending a lot. So I'm not really that worried about the supplies, which are the expense for it. I'm kind of worried about the number of these hedgehogs I'm going to have left. But how many do I really need for the El Alamein line when I get there? Assuming that I get stopped by that. I feel like this delaying tactic is actually of some value, right? Might be completely wrong, but 1941 things change. We're not that far from it. When in 41 do the Germans start coming? Yeah, good question. You start getting some planes there, start getting trucks, more Italian forces coming in. We get the Germans as early as February. So if I can prevent, losing things like Bardia and most important of all, Tobruk, that's going to change the nature of the kind of offense that I have to prepare now. I've also got hey, let's fall back on the Al Akbar or whatever up here. Okay. One thing that's of interest, even though these guys are disordered, their troop quality is still high enough. Indians, right? Yeah. Their troop quality is still high. No one else would be. Their troop quality is high enough that they can actually get an exploitation off of it even while disordered, which is kind of important because I kind of want to, I don't want to expose my forces to a possible Italian counterattack just because I got a weak force there. Here's the thing. I moved forward. It cost me 1 movement point to move into this hex. It means I don't have enough movement points for an overrun. An overrun costs 3. But if I converted to I think I cheated. I think I cheated with my last exploit, actually. because I don't think you get full movement in an exploitation. 8. The modes. Yeah, it's only half movement points. Ooh. So last time I cheated, I would have had to convert to mobile, to movement side, and paid fuel costs to launch an attack. Let me look at how bad my units are, because there's basically nothing here but artillery. Do I know that for sure? No. But if I could get that hex, that would make a significant difference, wouldn't it? Yeah, because then the Italians would have to build their breastwork here at City Albarani, and maybe they just abandon the entire line in that case. Well, that didn't go so well. First of all, spent a lot of supplies. The attack ended up like 9.5 to 7.5, because reducing myself due to movement means I ended up getting surprised with tiny surprise, and I get an AO1, DO1. I think I just retreat because I don't want to trade my best unit against his best unit, I think. Although he did put up something pretty good that's irreplaceable. But I still don't want to fight a war of attrition. He's got more steps than I do. Or he's got a lot of steps. I think it's more total on the board. I don't want to trade steps, even if I'm taking away one of his best units. And I'm not gaining the ground unless he chooses to retreat, which I don't think he will. And look, it's a friend who found something yummy. What does he have? Oops. I didn't want to spoil his meal. I think he's going to come back, actually. I think he decided I'm no threat. He can't make his mind up completely. Hi. Whee. Okay. They don't seem to really understand how much not a danger I am from back here. Which, I mean, I guess that's clever enough and all, but it's kind of funny. Like, unlike the deer, who I could never get as close to a deer as I can through the window, without disturbing them. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, so the Italians pulled back, abandoned this hedgehog. I'm not giving this one up. It's too dangerous to give up that road, but I'm beginning to get a real worry. Will I need to fall back eventually and hold this? I don't know. I feel like I'm fighting too hard with the Italians, like I'm gonna pay for this somehow. Not a hell of a lot else happened. They ended up getting no reinforcement supply points, so their pool is dropping. I brought the truck in, what the hell. I can always ship it somewhere if I don't need, like I've got plenty of coastal shipping points is sort of the issue. I considered throwing headquarters into, say, Benghazi as an example, but I don't know. Let's see how these headquarters hold up. You know, I don't really want to have a ton of headquarters on the board where they might get captured or destroyed or whatever. You can see casualties are beginning to build up on the Italian side. It's definitely happening. And that may be the cost of what I'm doing, is that I'm losing Italian units, but they're not that good. Some of them are okay. We'll see. If it ends up meaning that I lose Tobruk when I shouldn't, you know, of course, historically Tobruk fell, so I don't feel too bad about it. This time I remembered to put the artillery in reserve. I don't really have anything else I could. I mean, I'll throw this into reserve. The idea that if my position becomes completely untenable, I can get a jump while I'm pulling away. It's actually a big fucking stack. And there's no artillery to harass it, so it's like, it's this massive, nasty butt plug that is holding the 7th from doing anything. That is going to put me into January of 1941, and all kinds of new stuff starts taking place at this point. I've got to set up the table and whatnot, but the reinforcements for the new month, I hope to be able to get that done. Yeah, I should have enough time. I mean, I'm going to overrun the start of my raid day or whatever, but that's okay. I'm not going to lose much off of it. And I didn't want to do anything until then when I started this. So it's just about right. I'm going to load this guy up. And yeah, I mean, you know, we're seeing the Brits making an advance. I don't think Compass went this slowly. I feel like the Italians just sort of collapsed in front of it. But again, that may be my misunderstanding of that piece of history. First of all, the last time I really was excited about World War II, like really excited about it, was back when I was in my early teens. When I was starting wargaming, a little before I started wargaming, I was really into World War II. And by the time I started wargaming, I was definitely much more excited about like the Napoleonic, Civil War, and World War I games that I had. And that's just the truth, you know, like of what I've kept throughout. I've kept that same interest of, wow, I'm much more interested. And then like when I got into fantasy stuff, I got much more into medieval because I wanted my fantasy games to be realistically, you know, covering the way forces worked. And then I sort of filled in the gaps from there. And I'm actually really, really into other eras, like, you know, late medieval, early modern, you know, in that kind of era. I really enjoy those kind of periods. But honestly, my brain just fails to hold a lot of information in it. And, you know, this is not just an age thing. I remember in my 30s having a discussion with someone, and I had a lot of sort of vague connections and whatnot, but like I couldn't put the English kings into place out of nowhere or something like that. And that's something, you know, that I certainly knew had run into a fair amount of times. And, you know, other stuff, I would just like get things mistaken and whatnot that just, you know, it wasn't a pure area of interest, as I would put it. And I don't know what my, you know, as an Aspie, I'm supposed to have, you know, these massive areas of interest. And I just don't feel like I have them in most things to the degree that, like, I'm supposed to, right? Like, gaming might be mine, but even that, I don't have like a mind like a trap for that, you know? And, you know, work stuff, sure. I was pretty good in terms of knowledge there. And then within 6 months, it was kind of faded away. Anything I'm not using immediately just kind of fades away. So it's kind of weird. Anyway, enough babbling. Let's put this up.